Good morning. Good morning. This is Delegate Charles Newton. I am on the line.
Good morning, Brandy Bima.
Hey, good morning, Hope.
I haven't seen any recent photos of the LOC mascot lately.
I do need to post photos of her. She's sassier than ever. She is now, like, we can leave her outside of the gate now. We left her outside of the gate one night, overnight. And she's good, but when you start, like, trying to lead her back to her gate, to her pen, like, she'll fight you tooth and nails. But if you just walk in front of her, she'll follow you. So she just doesn't like to be told what to do, but she's very, very sassy. I'll have to take some pictures and send them to you, Hope.
Definitely, she's a cutie.
This is Charlene. I'm online.
Good morning. This
Good morning,
is Mabel
Charlene.
Desiderio. Good morning. This is Mabel Desiderio with Corrections Online.
Good morning, Mabel. Do we have any delegates currently on the line, delegates from the Law and Order Committee?
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Lorraine,
this is Lorraine. I'm on the line.
Oh, I was just going to ask Lorraine, are you on the line? Lorraine, I'm going to be on mute while we wait for the other committee members to join the call.
Okay.
Good morning. This is Brandon Bitsui with the Office of the Prosecutor.
Good morning, Sherelle. Are you on the line?
Good morning, Lorraine. I'm here.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you.
Lorraine, this is
Yeah.
Charlene. I'm on the line also.
Okay. All right. Hi, Shirley.
Lorraine, good morning. Jesse from DPS.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Delmore. We're just waiting for members. Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, Lorraine. This is Byron. I have Tim here as well. We're coming to you guys from the chamber this morning.
Oh.
Good morning.
Okay. Good morning.
Lorraine, have any other delegates got on?
Madam Chair, not yet.
Lorraine, can you text the committee members and let them know that we're currently on the line waiting for them to join in?
Okay.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, this is Jesse Delmar.
Delegate James on the line.
Lorraine, I'm sorry, I stepped away from my phone. Are there any other committee members who have joined the Law and Order Committee call?
Delegate James on the line.
Good morning, Shanella, Delegate James. Lorraine, do we have any other delegates who have joined the line? Hello, Lorraine? Hello, is there anybody
Chair.
that can hear me?
Hello, Chair. This is Sherelle. Honorable Vince James is on the line.
Yeah, any other delegates? Eugene So, Otto So?
Not that I heard of yet.
Okay, let me call them on the other line.
Okay.
Okay, so I did get a text message from Honorable Otto, so he's going to be joining the call after 10:30. He has some issues that he's currently taking care of at this point. I did get on the line with Honorable Eugene Stowe. He, I guess, maybe lost track of time because he was on the RDC call, so he'll be joining us here shortly. I just texted him the number.
I'm here, it's
Great. So now we do have Honorable Eugene Stowe who's joined the line. Honorable Vince James and myself, we do have a quorum. Again, Honorable Otto Stowe is asking to be excused until after 10:30 this morning. So with that, Lorraine, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 10:21. This is the Law and Order Committee for the 24th Navajo Nation Council. This is a regular meeting taking place teleconference. Today is January 11th, 2021. Lorraine, can you go ahead and assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Okay, Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton,
Present from Shiprock, New Mexico.
Honorable Vince James, hello, Honorable Vince James, Honorable Eugene So, Honorable Otto So will be calling in at 10:30, Honorable Edmund Yazzie, Madam Chair, you have 3 members present. 1 is absent and 1 is excused until 10:30. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, we'll go ahead and move forward with an invocation. Honorable Eugene So, Shizak, can you help us with the invocation this morning?
We don't want no more deaths in our Navajo Nation. We please ask the question that we get all healed. Missionaries in the Nepal, Ecuador Republic City, King Kong Arts Project. Ecuador Hassan Kado and Hadden, the Navajo Hassan Kado, the Indian, all of us, the state of Arizona, United States, and the world. And it's a party in Ecuador. So she had all this in the no, not United so she found it here in Nado, the destiny on her England. And this is in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Shija, for providing us that invocation here this morning. It's always good to hear prayers coming out from our elders. So with that, we'll move down to item number 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. Lorraine, all of the people who have called in, can you just go down the list to let us know who is currently on the line? Lorraine?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Now we can.
Okay. I have Jesse Dalmore, Hope McDonald Longtree, Sherelle Nota. Also have, let's see, Mabel Desiderio. And believe Ron Haven is also on. And Shirlene Jumbo Rotella. That's what I have, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, good morning. This is Mr. Cook from OLC. I'm on the line as well. I've been on since 9:55.
Thank you for announcing yourself, Mr. Cook. Are there anybody else who is currently on the line who would like to announce themselves at this time?
Delegate Daniel So is on the call.
Carlo Roanhorse, Ganado Fire.
Alan Fowler Jr. from Coppermine Chapter President.
Brandon Bitsui, Office of the Prosecutor.
Thank you for announcing yourself at this time, and thank you for joining the call. So we'll go ahead and move down to the next item on the agenda. We do have item number 3, review and adopt the agenda. Lorraine, can you go ahead and read the agenda into record, please?
Okay, can you hear me, Madam Chair? The members of the LOC, agenda of the Law and Order Committee, 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting, January 11th, 2021, 10 a.m., presiding Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairperson, Honorable Altoso, Vice Chairperson. And going down to number 1, call meeting to order, roll call and invocation. Number 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. Number 3, review and adopt agenda. Number 4, review and adopt the journals. There's none. 5, receive reports. Report from Jesse Dalmore, Executive Director, and then GPS or on crimes against the business during the pandemic. And then going to be report from Troy Cook, Attorney, Office of Legislative Counsel regarding Travel Law and Order Act. Going to see report from Mabel Desiderio, Department of Corrections on the status of Chinle Police Academy. D, others, 6, old business, none, new business, 7, new business, legislation number 0292-20. 8, close of meeting, adjournment, and an announcement and adjournment, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that. With that, committee members, the agenda has been read into record. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda? Second call, committee members, we need a motion and a second to adopt the agenda.
Delegate James motions.
Motion made
Hello?
by Delegate Vince James. Can I get a second?
Mr. So here.
Second made by Honorable Eugene So. Committee members, are there any questions, comments, or amendments that need to be made to the agenda at this time? I'm not hearing anything, so we'll go ahead and proceed forward to the vote. And this is the vote to accept the agenda for today. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Okay, roll call. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So.
Vote is not. Vote yeah.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Chair, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 not voting, which is including the chair not voting.
Thank you. So with that, committee members, we do have an agenda set before us. There was a vote of 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 not voting, 1 is excused. Honorable Otto So, 1 is absent. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, and the chair is not voting. So with that, we'll move down to the next item on the agenda, and that is the review and adopt the journals. There is none. Number 5 is receiving reports. Do we have the Executive Director for the Navajo Nation Department of Public Safety, Jesse Delmar, here this morning?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for being on the line, Mr. Delmar. So, Mr. Delmar, you presented to this committee before. You do know the rules. Do you have any questions before you start your presentation, Mr. Delmar?
No, ma'am.
Okay, with that, Mr. Delmar, the floor is yours to present, and committee members. When the presentation is complete, I will ask for a motion and a second at that time. Mr. Delmar?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And also, response on Mr. So and all Mr. James, you have to hit and then to everyone that's listening and attending this Long Order Committee meeting this morning. I want to happy New Year and keep it short, like to each one of you. And Madam Chair, I want to let you know that I was trying to get a hold of you. I did have requested for some data on the topic that the committee had requested me to report on. But I was going to request if I could be pushed back to next week and then get the data in place. But however, we can talk still, and maybe later on I can share that data with you as far as crimes against the business establishments that we have here on Navajo during the period of the pandemic. What I can let you know and tell you right now is that we do receive every day and every night information coming from the districts throughout the Navajo Nation, to include LMO and also the Coahuila area. The only area that is excluded is the Rama chapter. We don't get any information from them. But from what I see every day and every night, I really didn't see any numbers at all with regard to business establishments being victims of crime throughout. But like I said, I wanted to ask the committee if I could be delayed for another week pending the data I had requested from our system. And one thing I can tell you right now is that the pretty much this is not really business related as far as crime is concerned, but a health issue that a lot of our people are dying from across the Navajo Nation. That is probably the highest numbers that we've been receiving throughout the whole throughout the whole pandemic era for the past year, ever since March and this way. And we meet as a division, meet with my my managers every Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and we talk about certain issues that we have. Lately, the criminal investigations folks, they've been reporting a lot of reports of people dying. Some are non-pandemic related, but a lot of them are. So, Madam Chair, let me conclude at this point in time. If you have any specific cases that you want to talk about with regard to the topic that was assigned to me this morning, I can listen to you, and then let me give it back to you for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Delmore, thank you for one, informing us that that the data is not ready to go, and then two, for also informing this committee of some of the other issues that are currently happening. If the committee members are okay with it, what we can do is we can go ahead and move this item to next week's Law and Order Committee meeting, where you'll have better information to present to this committee. Particularly, what we wanted to hear is, I know that that we had several businesses here in Shiprock that were vandalized. The KFC had their window broken. I believe there was also an attempted burglary at City Market, and some of the other small businesses are also sharing information about what's going on in the community. Many of them have not received their police reports yet. And then in addition to that, we've had several Navajo Nation offices that were also broken into. I believe the Head Start here in Shiprock was broken into. The BIA building in Chinle was also broken into. I think it's the Social Services building there in Chinle that was broken into. And there's other places around the nation that are reporting these break-ins. My understanding is these break-ins really never happened before, prior to the pandemic. And it could be, because of the pandemic and the lack of officers currently now, because, some are out sick. And then also, we're really spreading our officers thin. So I was hoping that we could get a report on that to see how we can work forward, how we can work together to address those issues, especially if there are a lot of break-ins happening with our Navajo Nation offices, our BIA offices, and again, with the businesses located around the Navajo Nation. So I am okay with moving this item onto next week's Law and Order Committee agenda. Honorable Vince James, Honorable Eugene So, do you object to allowing this report to be heard next week?
Madam Chair, that's it.
Honorable Eugene So?
I'm okay with it, but I wish I would be informed of what's going on in Chinle periodically or before it happens. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Honorable Eugene. So that actually was on Facebook. There was a posting of it that happened on Facebook. I want to say it was about 4 days ago. I'm sorry. I thought that I sent that to you. I did a snapshot. Usually I try to keep delegates informed of things that are happening. Maybe it didn't go through. I'll double check to see if it did go through. But I can resend it again. It was on Facebook, and that was the reason why I was talking about that today. So I apologize, Honorable Eugene. So, Honorable Vince James, are you okay with moving this item to next week's LOC agenda?
Yeah, I am okay with it, but in the report next week, Mr. Delmore, can you provide a listing with position numbers and how much payments were bonus payments or special hazard payments were made within Division of Public Safety? Just kindly requesting that for LOC Law and Order Committee. Thank you.
Mr. Delmar?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you very much for extending my report to next week. I will certainly do that. Mr. Delegate Ani, I think you have my number, and I have your number too as well. Don't hesitate to call me anytime regarding anything having to do with Chinle chapter. I communicate with other delegates too every day regarding some issues that they may have throughout their chapters and communities. So don't hesitate to call me. Delegate James and we'll give you that information next Monday.
Okay, so with that, committee members, it sounds like we are in agreement that we can go ahead and allow Mr. Delmar, the Navajo Nation Department of Public Safety Executive Director, to present this information to us at the next Law and Order Committee meeting. Just for clarification, Lorraine, can you inform Mr. Delmar when the next Law and Order Committee meeting is?
Mr. Delmar, the next meeting will be on Tuesday next week because Monday is a holiday. And that will be on the 19th, was the next meeting at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Honorable Eugene So, go ahead.
so yeah, I passion that one thing that I really maybe Delmar can, I think they already might be, but the way Washington has only other wait on does this maybe we need to know how much security they have up there because of what happened last week. And because of what happened last week too, I have requested all the way up to the top that we can have some medicine man do a prayer on a blessing at the whole community. So that's my my concern. So thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Delmar, just to be clear, do you have a list of the information that the Law and Order Committee is requesting that you report on next week?
Yes, somewhat, but I will get with Spencer on it to get the formal listing from the committee.
Thank you for that. Ms. Spencer, if you could go ahead and email Mr. Delmar a list of the information that the Law and Order Committee would like him to present on for next week's Law and Order Committee. Are we good with that, Ms. Spencer?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Ms. Spencer. So with that, committee members, I am not going to ask for a motion, a second, or a vote at this time. Instead, there was a request given to us by Executive Director Jesse Delmar to push this presentation back to next week. And the purpose of this is he wants to gather some data for the committee and share that information with us. In addition to that, there will also be information shared with us as a committee on the various issues that that Department of Public Safety is facing at this point, which include the death of many of our Navajo people, which is COVID related, and then in some cases non-COVID related, in addition to other issues that they have also discussed during their Monday 9 o'clock meetings. We also have a report on the businesses and government buildings that have been broken into or vandalized. And then there was a request for the special duty pay, and then a request made by Honorable Eugene So. But all of that information will be shared with Mr. Delmar via email from Ms. Lorraine Spencer. So with that, committee members, if there's no objections, I'm going to go ahead and move down to item 5B. But before I do, Troy, is there anything that we do as a committee need to vote on, or something that we need to do to ensure that we are in compliance with the rules and laws of the Navajo Nation?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Good morning again. You're coming a little bit distorted. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, I do apologize. I just asked, is there, so we agreed there was no objections to allowing Jesse Delmar, the Executive Director for the Navajo Nation Department of Public Safety, to give the Law and Order Committee a full report on several issues that we have asked and also that I guess that he has shared. But I just want to know, is there anything formal that we need to do? Because all I said was, we're going to move that report to next week's Law and Order Committee. I am not going to ask for a motion. I am not going to ask for a second, and I'm not going to ask for a vote since we were in agreement as a committee to allow him to present to us next week. Is there anything that maybe is not in compliance with the rules or with the code in this situation?
From my understanding, it appears to be within the code, and there wouldn't be any issues related to moving on to the next meeting.
Thank you for that, Troy, Mr. Cook. So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and move down to item 5B, receiving reports. A report from Troy Cook, Attorney, Office of Legislative Counsel, regarding the Tribal Law and Order Act. Mr. Cook, you were just now speaking to us, so I know you are on the line. Mr. Cook, I don't know if you presented to this committee before. I know that you have been assisting us, but just to be clear, you'll have 15 minutes to present your information. If you need an additional 5 minutes, you can ask the committee, and if the committee is in full agreement, we will extend those additional 5 minutes. You can call for an agent. At this time, you can have up to 2 agents that you can call upon. And if there are any issues that you run into, or if there are people who are not on the line, the floor will be given back to you. Upon completion of your presentation, the committee will be asking questions, and it just kind of goes back and forth with questions, and then you answering, and then questions again. So with that, Mr. Cook, do you have any questions before your presentation begins?
Just my time allotted at this time for the presentation.
You will have 15 minutes automatically, but if you need an additional 5 minutes, you can ask the committee. If the committee is in full agreement, the additional 5 minutes will be added to your 15 minutes. So are there any other questions?
Not at this time. I appreciate that information, and I will go ahead and open once you let me get started. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Cook. The floor is yours.
Well, good morning, everybody, Madam Chair, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Law and Order Committee, Vice Chair, and members visiting on the line this morning. I was tasked with completing somewhat of a report was, I guess, what the request was late last Friday. I apologize in advance. I'm not going to be able to provide an actual written report, but I will generalize and summarize matters related to TLOA, or the Tribal Law and Order Act. And it's my understanding, prior to getting into the presentation, it's my understanding that the Navajo Nation in itself is interested, is my understanding, as to possibly entertaining and adopting TLOA provisions and even going as far as amending the Navajo Nation Criminal Code and sentencing enhancements. So based on the information that I received, first and foremost, Troy Cook in a kiss on inchla. Do nanas is it hutchine, but she's changed, just as you chato, be between national. Aro Ochin to a nasha, third mesa dan, Ashima, Aro Shija a look at this chin a nasha, on top of Kings Canyon is where my late father is from. Aro, I've got an extensive work history with law enforcement dating as far back as 1989. Started here with the Navajo Nation as a police officer. worked my way up through the ranks. I ended up getting into the FBI Safe Trails Task Force, and I was based out of the Flagstaff Resident Agency from 1995 through 98. My primary objective at that time was to investigate Major Crimes Act crimes occurring within the boundaries of the Navajo Nation and even Hopi Nation. Got experienced also with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, not only as a special agent, chief of police. I've also worked undercover drug enforcement for a period of years, and then got into executive management within law enforcement. In 2011, I left that location in Colorado to start prosecuting down in Hopi under the Hopi Nation, in which they were one of the first 3 tribes in the U.S. to adopt the Tribal Law and Order Act. They started conducting their interest in that in 2010, and it took about 2 years for them to finally get the whole criminal code revised. They, instead of just amending the current code, they went ahead and entertained and adopted a whole new code just to meet the elements of what was going on in their community and how they could combat crimes that were both misdemeanor and or considered felonies in some cases. As I prosecuted there, I left that position and took on a position here with Navajo Nation Prosecutor's Office and worked directly under the chief prosecutor at that time. And then left and went back into law enforcement. I then have some experience with the Ethics and Rules Office, and then now here at Office of Legislative Counsel. So hopefully the experiences that I bring over 30 years of work in this environment allow me to provide the best services to the Navajo Nation and its people. So on that note, I wanted just to kind of start off with, and I know that Mr. Bitsui is on the line as well, and I believe he's with the prosecutor's office. I just learned recently that Ms. Jennifer Henry had left the prosecutor's office, so excuse me for not knowing who's actually the delegated person as the acting chief prosecutor, but I may delve into some of the issues related to prosecution, but I'm not speaking directly on their behalf, as this process of TOLOA would have to include a lot of different emphasis, ranging from prosecution to the court to even corrections. And it's a pretty complex process. It sounds like it's easy to entertain. However, there's a lot of, in my experience, there's a lot of hidden agendas, especially when it comes into incarceration and cost of inmate issues. So on that note, TOLOA was enacted under the Obama administration, and it was signed into law in 2010. It was supposed to work hand in hand with VAWA, and if I'm talking too much in acronyms, I'll explain what the acronym is. VAWA stands for Violence Against Women's Act. And just researching some of my notes, the purpose behind VAWA back then, it was entertained as a policy issue going back as far as 1994. And its primary objective was to assist tribes with the enforcement and prosecution of violence against women in Indian country. And of course, Indian country is pretty broad. It's also entertaining natives up in the Alaska area. And even parts of, sometimes they can argue even like Hawaii and some of those other indigenous places. So statistics show that women were considered victimized highest within Indian country over any other ethnic origin. And they not only faced violence, intimate partner violence, but they also faced sexual violence as well. And there's a lot of statistics that I can probably put together for you at a later time when I submit my written copy of the report. But for the most part, when TLOA came into play, it was supposed to enhance the actions of the VAWA Act, and not only does it work hand in hand with VAWA, that's when tribes were afforded the option to enter into prosecuting their own individuals as resident members of the nation, or even non-native members of the nation. Anyone who commits a felonious assault on the reservation could then be entertained as a federal offense. Because remember, even we here with the Navajo Nation, under the Indian Civil Rights Act, most tribes in the U.S. are only obligated to prosecute misdemeanor offenses. And this isn't a legal class, but just in a nutshell, a misdemeanor meaning that a person faces sentencing anywhere from 1 day in jail all the way up to a year in jail, and then anywhere from $1 in fines to $5,000 maximum fines. So anything beyond that, over a year, then it constitutes a felony, where then the person can be incarcerated beyond a year and face fines above $5,000. However, when we talk about TLOA, one of the things that we did in Hopi was we had to redo the whole criminal code, because there are a lot of requirements that have to be complied with when you do become a TLOA prosecuting entity. Of that, when they revised the code, and just using them as an example because I worked there, they had to redo all of their statutes to show whether it starts off at the lowest level as a petty offense, and then they classify it in 5 different tiers, anywhere from petty, minor, to just a simple offense, a serious offense, and then a dangerous offense. And each time they classify a violation, they have to also be informed at arraignment or during their initial appearance as to the actual tier level of the crime they were alleged of committing. So, like I said, it's pretty complex. It would take more than 20 minutes to entertain the whole process of TLOA. The other part of TLOA is that one of the things, if the Navajo Nation does go through the formalities and becomes TLOA, it also has to incorporate that the judge who hears these TLOA cases has to have been a graduate of a licensed law school, and also defense counsel. Defense counsel has to also be a graduate of a licensed law school. Now, for prosecution, because the burden is on the government, it entertains the fact that the prosecutor doesn't have to be law licensed. They could be well-experienced lay advocates, or maybe a criminal justice degree person from an accredited college. So those are usually the provisions when it comes to the adjudication process of TLOA. And of course, if the person is sentenced beyond a year, when it comes to incarceration, the jails have to be to a degree of where they can house inmates beyond a year. And there's a lot of other provisions that go alongside meeting the federal standards for housing inmates. Now, one of the things that we experience in Hopi, and I've heard Honorable Otto So talk about this a few times in some of the meetings I've been in on, because of Hopi's jail being condemned, and a lot of the defendants that we adjudicated were going beyond the year in jail, there was no other alternative but to contract with then Coconino County, because that's a federal holding facility, and then also with Holbrook, which is Navajo County. And it caused a lot of dilemma for Department of Corrections under the BIA to be transporting inmates back and forth those long distances just for hearings, anything from a simple arraignment to a defense hearing to status conferences, pretrial conferences, whatnot. So the cost is usually what tribes encounter when they get into Toloa, because if they're going to be contracting detention beyond a year, because remember, every inmate that's incarcerated, it's not free. Somebody has to pay for their housing. And along those same lines, these individuals that are considered federal felony inmates or tribal inmates that meet the federal recognition of going beyond a year, they're also entitled to a lot of other, I hate to use the word luxuries, but inmates do have rights as well. So the incarceration issues, the jails or the detention centers have to afford them access to family, access to commissary, access to clergy, access to exercise and whatnot. So, and I believe at this point in time, the jails that are around the Navajo Nation that were recently structured was one of the reasons why they were built in that fashion. So the Tribal Law and Order Act, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, in my experience, it sounds very amicable to entertain and enact it for, as people want to say, they don't want to just let individuals walk around free for their actions. Excuse me. But, the enhancements of sentencing is where that provision fits in. And the sentencing that the courts can do, the judge can do, can be anywhere from 1 year to a maximum of 3 years for each offense that they're found guilty on. And I know in one case, we had adjudicated a medicine man out in Hopi, and there was some real serious aggravating offenses that this person committed against a female. This person actually got 9 years, and they were considered to be consecutive sentences. And so it does have a lot of rules. I know that when you're talking about Toloa as well, the adjudication process generally has to be very optimized to where the process for adjudication is very stringent as well. I know out in Hopi, we had to adopt the federal rules of evidence along with the federal rules of procedure if we're going to be adjudicating some of those defendants in that realm. So, and just speaking about Toloa this morning, I would see that, it would be a workable item for the Navajo Nation, but it would be very intricate to get that ball rolling and start, looking toward that, as there's going to have to be a lot of teamwork involved from a lot of disciplines that would entertain that. Let's see. Yeah, the other thing that I can share with Toloa is, as I mentioned earlier, defense counsel has to be a licensed attorney. One of the things that I would hate to happen is opening up a can of worms for the Navajo Bar Association, as I know, me myself being an advocate grade person, what impact would it have with our prosecution and our individuals already in place, particularly with maybe defense counsel and the judges who are already on the bench? Would that cause a problem for them to hear these cases? Because I know when I was presenting the cases in Hopi as part of the representing the Hopi tribe, one of the things that would come up is we would separate all of our defendants, all of the arrestees. Let's say hypothetically a person was arrested for a serious or dangerous offense, which are considered Toloa offenses. Generally on Monday, when the judge comes in, arraignments would be conducted at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, but we'd have to separate two different arraignment processes because the Toloa defendants were afforded a separate type of it was the same rights given to them as defendants, but there was also separate provisions in place to include identifying if they're indigent, and if they are indigent, then the tribe has to give them a court-appointed attorney. It's no longer, as they say, at your own will. You can, as if it was a misdemeanor offense. Sometimes, some individuals get pro bono legal counsel through our Navajo Bar Association, but a lot of times in the felony cases or the Toloa cases, they would have to have a court-appointed attorney if they met those parameters as being indigent. So I know in the Hopi, how we worked it over there is that DNA would come in as they had licensed attorneys working for them as defense counsel, but then there was a high influx of Toloa defendants where they had to have a separate two attorneys under the general counsel's office out of Kikutzmovi, and or they had contracted attorneys out of the Flagstaff and Winslow areas that would be notified, where they would have to come in and represent the defendants right at their first hearing. Obviously, these defendants cannot be there without their counsel present. So there's a lot of, like I said, intricacies involved in a Toloa state or nation. So those are just the particulars that I put together this morning about opening the door and the discussion of Toloa. And it's not only geared toward the crimes against the family. Like, I was looking at the law this morning under 17,500. The tribe can always entertain and amend their codes too to decipher which other statutes of criminal offenses do they want to consider being a Toloa offense. And again, that's where you would have your separate tiers identified as to what is the max for this lower offense, what is it for this offense, all the way up to the most serious or dangerous, if it's going to be worded that way. And so that at that point, that's when, during the arraignment process, the defendant is advised of what exact offense tier level and the maximum amounts of incarceration and or fines that they're facing. So again, it gets pretty complex when looking at it. And when I was looking at the Title 500 code this morning, it appears that everything is on par with the code. And if the nation entertained this, then how would they go about like separating out the actual guidelines and parameters as to, was it an egregious, was it an actual reckless act, was it intentional? Because the mens rea has a lot of ties as to what they're also facing when it comes to sentencing. So again, I'm gonna put this together on a hard copy just as a draft to you all, and then I'll just leave it to your discretion, Madam Chair, as to what really is the nation seeking, because that really needs to be identified as what is the intent and what is the purpose, and then going from there, then getting the structure in place and all the team players involved. So that would be my opening as to this topic this morning, for the first time presenting to you all as the respectable Law and Order Committee. Thank you.
For that presentation, Mr. Cook. Committee members, are there any questions at this time for the presentation that has been provided to us? I faintly heard
Madam
someone
Chair,
okay, Honorable Eugene, so go ahead.
there has Ani. Nihit huit hol nahit ol yaki. Anit in the case tribals. My question is that pertains to all the nation within the United States tribal. So it's regards to the violence against Native women. We have we don't see it, but it's not written. I don't think it's written within the Title I. Some of the laws that we have within there is we were usually taught another one is I don't know. These kind of languages were within the Title I should be, but I don't think it's in there. It has its own judgment, and I guess it's really going to be hard to tort somebody with that kind. So I'm just thinking that makes me think about our own national harmonious laws. And that catch it. So even the Navajo, any kind of words that are within our rights as religion or songs, it was not supposed to be heard outside the 4 mountains. But we are doing it sometime with the KTN and other radios, etc. But those were also had their own judgment. A lot of things that we don't do no more. We don't really look at it no more within our tribal laws and our law and order laws. We're calling it our natural laws. And the question is tribal. Does it mean everybody within the nation, the United States? I'm pretty sure it is, but I need something to verify. Thank you.
Thank you, Shajat, Honorable Eugene. So with that, Troy, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor back over to you at this time to address the concerns that have been posed by Honorable Eugene. So.
Okay. Again, and not to say that I'm not supporting this concept of Toloa. However, when Toloa was first implemented, after it was passed in 2010, out of the so many hundreds of tribes that were federally recognized, and particularly those tribes that had a system in place of their actual court systems and or law enforcement systems and or even through the BIA services, the direct service agencies out there, a lot of tribes opted out of Toloa. And as I mentioned, in 2012, when I was becoming acclimated to this process, there was only 3 tribes that adopted it. One was Hopi, I believe one was Pascua Yaqui, and I forget the other one was up in the upper Midwest. However, and I could be wrong, but I was looking at some notes this morning. There is only, even after all these years have passed, there's still several tribes that only opted in. I'll just read a few of them. Hopi, Tulalip, the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, the Confederate Tribes of Umatilla Reservation, Eastern Band of Cherokee, Fort Peck, Assiniboine. I always have a problem with that word. Assiniboine, the Muskogee Creeks, Salt River, and then Pascua Yaqui. So a lot of them, like I said, at the time when I was part of the process as well, when they were looking at Toloa, it was afforded to all the tribes throughout the U.S. that wanted to entertain it. But because of the associated cost involved of going Toloa, a lot of the tribes were advised that you get a budgeted amount of fiscal year monies every year. When you take on some of this especially for the contracted tribes, they would have to absorb the cost of all that cost related to not only the adjudication, but also to the incarceration of the inmates. So at that point, a lot of the tribes opted out until they could research it further to see if it was really beneficial for them. And again, I'm a strong advocate for holding individuals accountable, especially for violence against anybody, including women. That no one should be facing those type of assaultive behaviors or injuries. But at some time, if the tribe, with these tribes that didn't entertain the Taloa or going Taloa, some may have gone through it now because I kind of been out of circuit since 2015. But other than that, there's probably more tribes that came on board to adopt Taloa. And again, if they're going to adopt Taloa, they have to also comply with the guidelines that outline them to be a Taloa court and or tribe. So in regards to Honorable So's question, it would just be my response that yes, it is afforded to tribes out there throughout the United States and Alaska. However, it's not all tribes prefer to adopt it, and some would even go as far as indicating that these judgments beyond a year, it may come into conditions of like you mentioned, the traditional, customary, and fundamental laws that are supposed to be unique to every tribe, including the Navajo Nation. So it's still an arguable, open trial and tribulation that tribes are going through with this. But I'm somewhat surprised that even with the amount of tribes throughout the U.S. that haven't adopted it, I would ask, why did they do it? And I would believe that it's probably associated to the cost. Hopefully that answers my question, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Eugene So, do you have any further comments or questions for the presenter at this time?
Regards to this Taloa, you were inquiring on our Reagan that's Law and Order and Act, Tribal Law and Border Act. I would really like to. Is it all covered, the whole tribe of the United States, the same laws, or is there kind of like separate tribes that is different within that act? Thank you.
Mr. Cook?
Okay. Formality-wise, I'm just waiting to see if you want me to respond right away, or do you want to go ahead and interject first? So I'll go ahead and answer the question. So as far as the tribes throughout the U.S., remember, each and every one of the nations are their own sovereign entities. So depending on how their jurisdictional, judicial system, criminal justice system is set up, the laws are going to be similar. For example, our law here under Title 17, under the criminal codes, the language of the statute is probably going to be similar to that of maybe Hopi, or maybe even our sister tribes, brother tribes, maybe the Ute Mountain Utes, the Southern Utes, or even some of the Pueblos. Usually when the laws are enacted, the language is generally somewhat similar. However, when it comes to actual codification or codifying them, that's when there's a lot of difference when it comes to sectioning them out and by statute. So for example, when I was working over at the Isleta Police Department as their captain, our tribal laws were under Title 33 and Title 66. even though one was like for traffic code and one was for like the criminal code. So here in Navajo, it's Title 17 as the criminal offenses, and then Title 14 for the traffic offenses. So to try to answer your question in a nutshell, the laws that are out there that are afforded that the tribes enact, they're going to be similar in fashion, but there's also going to be a lot of differences because of how their demographics are. So the living style, even the tradition and culture, is going to probably be a lot different than ours here within the Netha area. They're going to have somewhat similarities, but it's going to be a lot different as well. But just to answer your question, each tribe would have their own separate laws under their codes of what they enacted by their council or legislation dated so many years back. But it's not going to be exactly written as to how ours is. And even though with Taloa, if a tribe decides to adopt Taloa, they give it to the benefit of that tribe to start entertaining how are they going to change their codes. So from the codes that they currently have, I would, just looking at the way that our codes are here within Navajo, we would probably have to make quite a few amendments to it just to make sure it works and is proper, especially if you're going to do the sentencing issues, and or if you're going to divide up certain elements of let's say it's a battery offense. You know, at what level was it a battery? What was the type of offense? Was it like hands, fists, or feet against another person, or was it using an object or an instrument or even a weapon against another person? So because of the way of each action of an offense that occurs out there, the prosecution, looks at all of these factors to see which element of the offense it will fit into. So I know I'm trying to keep it as lay terms as possible on some of these questions and the responses. So hopefully I was able to answer those questions for you, Honorable. So.
Thank you for that, Mr. Cook. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time for the presentation that's been provided to us? Okay, so with that, committee members, I do have a couple of questions. Honorable Eugene So, I'm going to ask you, since Honorable Otto So is not available, Honorable Eugene So, can you take the chair at this time so I can ask questions to the presenter?
Question, go ahead, Madam Chair. You can have the floor now. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Cook, for the information that you provided to us. I actually was working in Senator Udall's office at the time that the Tribal Law and Order Act was being, when it was being prepared, and I was fortunate enough to come in at the tail end. So I'm very familiar with the act itself and the reasons behind the act being presented to Congress at that time, and then also the data that was shared with Congress at that time to try to push this act forward. So that was, I think, one question that did come up during the committee hearings was how we would address the issue with the requirement for judges to have attended law school. And I do recall that they did Navajo as an example, because Navajo does have advocates right now that does not require them to have a law degree. And so I do recall, again, that they did use Navajo, and they said Navajo does have a very unique system that they did develop in allowing advocates to come forward to to assist their people through through the criminal process. And I remember there was another tribe, and for the I just cannot remember which tribe it was, but I believe that tribe was also doing the same thing, allowing advocates to to be their judges. I believe it was the Cheyenne River tribe out of Wyoming was the example that they used. I believe that's what it was. But I think that you do bring up some really valid points in that if the Navajo Nation does adopt the Tribal Law and Order Act, there would be a lot of changes that would have to be made. And I know that Navajo has always prided ourselves on the fact that we are sovereign, one, and two, we have a very unique law system that is currently in place that we don't see anywhere else. And Navajo is kind of pushing it forward right now in Indian country as far as exercising our sovereignty, and then also ensuring that we do have full rights to what will be coming down the pipeline for our Navajo people who do violate the laws. So I do understand that on the one hand. On the other hand, when I was working as a prosecutor, I know that we have a lot of judges that don't really stand the legal process and procedures that the Navajo Nation has adopted. And I know that there are some judges who fall back on fundamental law. And it was frustrating to see people who violated the law being released because judges didn't want to keep them in detention. Some of these, in my opinion, very, very violent people who had, who did have a lengthy criminal history. And so it was always very interesting to see, these individuals coming before the courts and making arguments to judges. And these arguments were arguments that were always used. And so these arguments were arguments that fell on fundamental law and resulted in them being released because the judges were required to follow fundamental law. And so it was always a struggle. And then, we also heard from victims who were out there who would call to our office and who would tell us, how the system failed them because the individual who hurt them or who hurt their family were now released back into the public. So we do have a lot of that, those types of stories that are here on the Navajo Nation. We've also heard coming from our Department of Public Safety, they're being spread thin right now with the limited number of officers that have, and then also with COVID, many of our officers have been infected. And as a result, there's less officers who are covering the Navajo Nation. We have had those conversations with the Bureau of Indian Affairs to see if we can try to get more funding to hire more officers. Unfortunately, that has, it seems like it's kind of passing the buck type of, results that than what we have expected. We recently did have a conversation with BIA on replacing the facilities here on Navajo Nation for public safety, primarily those in Window Rock, the one here in Shiprock, and then the one in Delcon as well. And it was really good to hear that the Tribal Interior Budget Council, we had advocated to try to increase funding for public safety, and this was the first time that has happened. So it was really exciting to hear that the advocacy was paying off. Unfortunately, it's not a lot to replace our facilities, but I think that's one of the issues that we do run into with the Tribal Law and Order Act is that we do have the facilities to house individuals, but many of these facilities are not being used, not only because of COVID, but prior to COVID, they weren't really being used as well.
So we kind of run into a catch-22 where, we have to fix one part of the justice system in order to, to address the issues that are happening here on the nation. And I do remember having that conversation with Jennifer Henry, then acting chief prosecutor, who I will have to say on the record that I am sad to hear that she did leave. We did get information about her departure on Monday last week. And it was really unfortunate that we lost a really good advocate for the Navajo Nation because of petty disagreements to who she's married to, which I think is I really disagree with that. Nobody out there should be prying into anybody else's marriage unless they themselves have a perfect marriage. So I'm just really sad to hear that she is no longer with the office of the prosecutor. She was really, really good, and I'm sure Rama community will be feeling her absence here soon. But with that, we did have that conversation about how do we amend Title 17. This has been an ongoing issue since the Law and Order came into office in 2019, and we did start those discussions, and we got 3/4 of the way in when it was sent back to the drawing board. And both Jennifer Henry and myself, we did come with some recommendations that would try to help the committee to move past those issues that are currently being asked right now. So there's just a lot of moving parts. So I guess what I'm trying to get to, Mr. is, I remember when Ethel Branch was the Attorney General for the Navajo Nation. She did have, I believe it was called the, it was a conference that she held every winter. And she brought together all of the, law enforcement, criminal investigations, the prosecutor, judges, also advocates, public defender's office, and they had these discussions on how to address the issues. So my question to you, Mr. Cook, is one, do we know of any conference that will be happening with the Navajo Nation to try to move this issue forward with the Tribal Law and Order Act? I believe, again, when Ethel Branch was the Attorney General, they did have these conversations on the Tribal Law and Order Act. And I know that at that time I was a prosecutor, but the last 2 years of her being here, I wasn't able to attend that conference. I did cover for the other prosecutors during that time. So I need to know, is there any efforts moving forward to try to get the Tribal Law and Order Act moving forward, or to have a firm position established by the Navajo Nation, or whether the Navajo Nation would be, whether we would be accepting the Tribal Law and Order Act, or whether we are in firm position that the Navajo Nation will not be accepting the Tribal Law and Order Act at this time. So I need to know that too. I'd also like to get some information on the data of the number of tribes that have currently opted into the Tribal Law and Order Act. So if you could start working on that for us to get that information together. The third question that I have is, I know that the violence against women, the reauthorization that occurred, whether those laws that have been implemented are laws that were covered by the Tribal Law and Order Act. And so I guess in essence, if the VAWA was accepted by the Navajo Nation, whether those laws that are being implemented are currently covered under the Tribal Law and Order Act, in particularly the sentencing enhancements, and then also the oh gosh, I can't even think of it right now. The fine enhancement as well, and whether there's certain requirements that are listed in VAWA that are listed in the Tribal Law and Order Act that we seem to be having issues with, regarding the defenders, and then also the public defenders, and then also the judges. So if you can get that information together for us, I think that would be really beneficial for this committee to hear, and then also the subcommittee that Honorable Eugene Stowe is a part of. I think that information we do need to start moving forward on, especially since we are discussing the amending Title 17 of the code. So again, if you could assist this committee with those information and start helping this committee to move forward. If there is no conference being planned right now, perhaps this committee needs to start having that discussion to bring everyone to the table to see if TLOA is something that the Navajo Nation should opt into, or whether we should leave that out and start proceeding forward with the Title 17 amendments that have been presented. So with that, Mr. Cook, I thank you for your time. And Lorraine, I do want to add that I think we do need to have a work session, but we also need to get an update on the work session for the detox center and whether you reached out to the Health, Education, Human Services Committee on that joint effort. So with that, members, I appreciate the time. I'm going back on mute.
Madam Chair, do you want this in verbal, or do you want it in writing? What you're presenting to Ms. Cook here?
Yeah, for asking me that, Shujaa, Honorable Eugene. Yes, I think we do need to have a report in writing, and I think that this report does need to be presented to the Law and Order Committee again. And then we do have to decide whether we do want to have a work session on this issue, since this committee is considering the amendments that have been made to Title 17. Thank you, Shujaa.
So you don't need response on the visitor?
No, I don't have a response. I am just formally requesting that we have this report presented to the committee. And you did clarify for me, Shujaa, that this report does need to be in writing.
With that, I virtually send the gavel back to you, Madam Chair. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Shujaa, Honorable Eugene. So with that, committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time for Mr. Cook on his presentation on the Tribal Law and Order Act and the Navajo Nation?
Madam Chair.
Hope, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to propose to the committee that they may consider hearing a presentation from the Pascua-Yaqui tribe, who has successfully implemented the TLOA and VAWA. They are always willing to give presentation and training to tribes to let them know exactly what it takes, the cost, and the how it's being implemented now successfully. It takes a considerable amount of commitment, and the commitment has to be at 100%. Otherwise, the expanded authority is revoked. So they can take the committee step by step through what they did and how they have maintained its success. Other tribes have struggled who have opted in because of that level of commitment that is required by law for this expanded authority. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Hope, for chiming in. What an excellent suggestion. I didn't know Pascua-Yaqui was successful in adopting the TLOA. I think that it is important that we do have that conversation. So can you, Hope, work with Lorraine to schedule a leadership meeting, so it'll be tribe to tribe, on having this conversation with Pascua-Yaqui and asking questions regarding the TLOA. We probably will also extend the invitation to the entire 24th Navajo Nation Council, since it would require, in this case, a passage from the entire council if the Title 17 is amended as is without TLOA, or if we do proceed forward and opt in as TLOA. So thank you so much, Hope. Again, if you could work with Lorraine on this.
Will do, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. So with that, committee members, since there are no questions or comments for Mr. Cook, I'm going to go ahead and proceed forward to the vote. Sherelle, can you assist the committee with the roll call vote, please? Oh, wait, hold on, Sherelle. I do apologize. Committee members, I do need a motion and a second to accept the report from Troy Cook, Attorney, Office of Legislative Counsel regarding Tribal Law and Order Act. Motion made by Honorable Eugene Stowe. Can I get a second? Honorable Vince James, are you there? Can you second?
Delegate James, second.
Thank you for that, Honorable Vince James. So with that, committee members, we do have a motion and a second in place. At this time, Sherelle, again, since there are no questions or comments from committee members to Mr. Cook, we're going to go ahead and proceed forward to the roll call vote. If you could assist us at this time. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Okay, thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Chair, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 not voting, which is including the chair not voting, 1 excused, and 1 is absent.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, Mr. Cook, we do appreciate your time. The committee excuses you at this time. We did accept your report, and again, we look forward to the next report that you'll be providing to this committee in writing. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Madam Chair.
Okay, with that, committee members, we will be moving down to the next item on the agenda. We have 5C, report label H. Desiderio, Department of Corrections, on the status of the Chinle Police Academy. Ms. Desiderio, are you on the line?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Desiderio. I don't know if you've presented to this committee before. I believe this may be your very first time. So let me just go over the rules with you very quickly. You have 15 minutes to present your information to this committee. If you need an additional 5 minutes, you can request that. If there are no objections from the committee, you'll be granted those 5 minutes or those additional 5 minutes. Once you're done with your presentation, if you could just let the committee know that you are complete, that you've completed the presentation, the floor will be then turned over to the committee members who may have some questions. Once the questions are asked or once the comments are made, I'll turn the floor back over to you, and that kind of just goes back and forth that way. You do have the opportunity to have 2 agents present with you during this time, and you can call upon them anytime during your 15-minute presentation. Do you have any questions for us at this time, Ms. Desiderio?
No, I don't, ma'am.
Okay, so with that, committee members, we'll go ahead and hear the presentation from Ms. Desiderio. Upon completion of her presentation, I will ask for a motion, a second, and then we can proceed forward to the questions. So with that, Ms. Desiderio, the floor is yours.
Okay, good morning, Madam Chair, auto members of the Law and Order Committee, and the folks that are on the line to attend this meeting this morning. Yat a bene, she Yahamable Henderson Desiderio, Ain't Fiedo, Don Anslani, Etcoban, Sliro, Watsana Bashin, Tonesani Eda, Chanel Dona Kadeneda Shiche. And a little history, I have done corrections for well over 35 years. Out of 35 years, 34 as corrections management in juvenile and adult settings. I did retire and end up coming back. So a little history, my background history. But today I was given word last week that they needed an update on the Chinle Academy. So I went ahead and did a little review over the weekend to see what was new, and I did come up with some stuff that I believe, I'm not too sure if you guys already heard this, but pretty much there hasn't really been a change. But since 2018, the plans for a new Chinle Police Academy was in the works. So in the year of 2018, a plan it became construction ready. That plan pretty much entailed 4 classrooms and a section for the administration area. So so that's where that's at, and it has been there since. After the last meeting that had taken place regarding working on this facility, that one of the key players, his name is Gregory Sosi, had left since. So there hasn't been an updated meeting yet, and there was funding that they were trying to seek. To my understanding is that if we do make a request through CIHSN, we have to make sure that we have earmarked and identify a matching fund. So so right now we did try to meet with BIA under Department of Justice, letting them know what our plans were for the Navajo Nation in building a police academy. But what we were informed is that BIA already has a police academy down in Artesia, which is a Flexi program. And that's where we have to submit our applications and get all our correction officers certified. And some of the law enforcement also were going down until they initiated the one in Chinle. So what we did to limit sending our people down to Artesia is that we brought a professional team in to do a general instructor's course for our officers, and we end up having over 36 general instructors that are doing the training now. It's not a certified training to certify a CO, but it's all other general trainings that they train. So that's where that's at. I'm pretty sure that that's not what you were really looking for. You probably wanted to hear a little more progress from 2018, but 2018 yeah da ben hastado beta ziado tit ado le nene ahanda has ado beso yaha ahanda pahaten, and the plan is now construction ready. And what we don't know is that the more and the longer we wait, there's usually like a 3% in revenue costs, or as not revenue, an extra cost that's added on each year. So that's what we're up against. So that's pretty much what I have to report, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Ms. Desiderio. I apologize, committee members. I took away my phone really quickly. Ms. Desiderio, do you have a actual written report that you can provide to the committee, or is this just a verbal report?
Madam Chair, this is now a verbal report, but I can go ahead and do a written report and forward it to your office or to your attention. Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Desiderio. So with that, committee members, we have the report that has been provided to us by Ms. Desiderio from the Department of Corrections on the status of the Chinle Police Academy. Can I get a motion at this time?
Eugene So.
Motion made by Honorable Eugene So. Can I get a second?
Delegate James.
Delegate James seconds this report. So with that, committee members, are there any questions or comments for Ms. Desiderio?
Eugene So.
Go ahead, Chief. Eugene So, the floor is yours.
Actually, today I was trying to get this thing moving again. Recently, I another solicitor asking me what happened, but I reckon that we need to work together. I would really need that report in writing. That would really help me. I know I was missing somebody in Chenli. Just not to show on the other kid, Gregory Sosi. He's always at the chapter meeting, but I missed him for I don't know how many months now. I haven't seen him. So now that's the case. Defunding, I'm pretty sure we can look for some. Me and my LDA. We can start right away if that needs to be done. Just yearly, it costs extra cost is adding up, and we don't want that to happen for the next 5, 10, 20 years. So I think I'm thinking about starting it, activating it again. The plans. I know it's construction ready. I got the whole book too for it. Oh, you see, I have not been just not the way you see the plans. Seems that they're very, very almost to the point where how was to be built. A shed did need all this, but I really would like to work with you all and try to make this thing moving forward. We do need we need academy. I see Abba Aliagi, Abba Chahadat Aliagi. Idia, I just gonna make comment and I thank you for it. Mabel's in Shed did need all this. So we need to start working on it again. Thank you.
Honorable Eugene So, Mr. Siderio, do you have any questions or comments at this time for Mr. Eugene So?
Shanant, Madam Chair, Shanant, that would be a good plan, another place to start. So, Eshi Hajoshi, Tieshin da Disnesto, not Tosajo, Big Indashinisto, Nihit so I can't have. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Siderio. Committee members, are there any other questions or comments at this time from Mr. Siderio? Since I'm not hearing anything from any of the committee members, Mr. Siderio, if we could get your report in writing so that Honorable Eugene So and his LDA do have a copy of that, and also this committee as well. I think that would be good, especially since you're looking for funding sources. This will help us when we start heading out and meeting with state representatives, and then also at the federal level as well. So if you could give us that report in writing, that would be great. Thank you. So with that, committee members, we're going to go ahead and proceed forward to the vote. Sherelle, can you please assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Okay, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jane votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Chair, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 not voting. 1 is the chair not voting. 1 is absent. 1 is excused.
Thank you for that information, Sherelle. So with that, the committee does accept your report at this time, Mr. Siderio. We thank you for your time. You're hereby excused.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have a good day.
You too, Mr. Siderio. So with that, committee members, we are moving down to item 6 on the agenda, old business. There is none. Item number 7, new business. We do have legislation number 0292-20. Do we have the sponsor, Delegate Daniel So, with us at this time? Legislation number 0292-20. Do we have the sponsor, Delegate Daniel So, on the line at this time? Second call. Okay, this is the third and final call. Delegate Daniel So, are you on the call at this time? Your legislation number 0292-20 is being called at this time. Okay, so with that, Lorraine, we do not have the sponsor available, so we'll go ahead and move this item onto the next agenda since there is no sponsor. So with that, committee members, we are now at item number 8, close of the meeting. Before we adjourn, are there any announcements that any committee members need to at this time?
Madam Chair,
Honorable Eugene Soshajab, go ahead.
I really want to, my concern and issue regards to what happened at Washington. And I got some letters going to the speaker and also the president and the office in Washington to see if we, not if, but see how we can get a medicine man up there so I feel that's part of our house, and we got an office up there too. So that needs to be done if we're going to keep on planning from there. Blessing. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Honorable Eugene. So we're going to have that on the next LOC committee agenda. So with that, committee members, the only announcement that I have is today is the first day of the Arizona State legislative session. All of this is being done virtual. I don't believe that any of the committee members have or are in Phoenix at this time. We also have on Wednesday the Arizona Indian Day. Again, this is being done through a virtual meeting. Again, there is no Law and Order Committee members who are in Phoenix or who are traveling at this time. So just an FYI for anybody who's out there listening. We have it looked like on the calendar that was now a possible Navajo schedule for the 14th, this Thursday. It is a special meeting. And I think there's a petition going around for the special council meeting that is scheduled or proposed to be scheduled on Friday. I don't know if there's enough people who have signed the petition. It looks like as of 11:30 this morning, there were 11 delegates who signed or who did confirm through email that they do want to sign the petition. They are looking for 2 more signatures. And for those who are listening in on Facebook, Vimeo, and YouTube, when council does meet for Nabik Iatskit for any committee meetings or for council, just to be clear, we do only get paid $60 unless we are chairing the meeting. We do get $80. So in this case, I am chairing the Law and Order Committee meeting, so I do get my $80 at the end of this meeting. It doesn't matter how long the meeting lasts. We do get a standard pay of $60 if we are committee members, $80 if we are chairing the meeting. I know that has been going around on Facebook that we get $1,000 or that we get paid $500 for these meetings. We don't. It is set by code. We only get paid $6 and $80 if we chair the meetings. So with that, committee members, we also have the Law and Order Committee meeting scheduled for the 19th. As Lorraine stated earlier this week, on the 18th is the Martin Luther King Jr. Day, which is a holiday. Our staff are allowed to be off during that time, and I would hate to be that one delegate who calls a meeting on that day for staff work that day. So our Law and Order Committee will be scheduled for Tuesday the 19th at 10 o'clock. And then the last thing is we do have Winter Council session week of January 25th. This is a regularly scheduled council session per the code. So if you could clear your calendars during that time to ensure that our attention is focused on council during that time. So with that, committee members, are there any other announcements that need to be made at this time?
Madam Chair,
Honorable Eugene So, go ahead.
my stepson is getting married today, and I'm not even there because of the pandemic. So he's getting married today, and he was a single parent for 5 years. So, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Well, congratulations, Honorable Eugene So, the addition to your family. What is your stepson's name, Honorable Eugene So?
Reuben Wilson.
Well, if Reuben Wilson is listening in on this committee meeting, congratulations. Marriage is a blessing, and we just pray and hope that all goes well on your special day today. So we want to recognize you at this on behalf of your father, Honorable Eugene So. Hope, did you have an announcement to make at this time?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. First, the priorities from the council were presented to state legislators last Friday during the state task force meeting. And as requested, you asked me to reach out to Representative Orlando Teller to request a meeting with him on public safety issues. He has not responded to give me a date. Do you want me to ask him if he can be available for the next LOC meeting, or do you want to just set aside a time to meet with him outside of the LOC meeting? If you can give me feedback on that. The second item is he did reach out immediately to request a meeting with the State Liquor Board in Arizona, and they haven't sent him a date yet for that meeting. So he said he will let me know as soon as that date is set up for the request at the request of the LOC per the priorities that were provided. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that update, Hope. So just as an FYI, committee members, Representative Teller did request some information from public safety. This was a request made at the state task force meeting. Unfortunately, there was not a Law and Order committee member who was present or who was asked to provide that information. So I don't know if any committee members were on the state task force meeting call when the information was being requested. As a result of that, since there was nobody that I knew was on the state task force meeting, we did reach out to Representative Teller to ask if we could have a separate meeting to discuss the public safety needs and then our priorities that were submitted to Speaker Damon, and to talk a little bit about where the direction that the Law and Order Committee is heading. Hope, just FYI, I did also reach out to Representative Teller myself. Personally, he did respond back that he was willing to meet, but he never provided a date or time when I did ask him. I think that it is important that we also include in this meeting the other Navajo representatives in the state of Arizona who should be on this call, I believe, and I'm double checking because I honestly did not keep up with the Arizona the results that came out. I believe that would be Representative Sosi and Representative Peshlikai, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct, Hope?
Senator Peshlikai, yes.
Is Representative Sosi, was he reelected?
Yes, just as you stated, Madam Chair.
Yes, so let's go ahead and let's extend the invitation to the three of them so that we as a committee can inform them of the priorities of this committee regarding public safety and the assistance that we would need from them from the state of Arizona. Oh.
I'm sorry. Do you want that to be a leadership meeting?
Yes, let's go ahead and do a leadership meeting with the three state representatives.
Okay, I will coordinate a date with Lorraine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So with that, committee members, since there are no other announcements, I'm going to go ahead and proceed forward and ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
Madam Chair, one thing. to maybe
Yes, Honorable
anyone,
Eugene So, go ahead.
excuse me, anyone that can get contact with Orlando Associate Jessica, maybe you can request that they have to really keep an eye out on the 20th during the inauguration. They're heading to do another rally or some kind of protest at the state. Yeah.
That does remind me. Thank you, Honorable Eugene So, for bringing that up. Committee members, I do have to ask, are there any committee members who are planning to attend the inauguration of President Biden in this? Okay, so I'm not hearing anything from any of the committee members. I myself will not be attending the inauguration. I'll be doing it virtually. We did receive that email from, I believe it was Washington, with the invitation and also the option for virtual attendance. I did sign up for the virtual attendance for the Arizona State Legislature and then also for the one in Washington, D.C. Hope if you could send that email out again to the committee members to attend virtually if they like. But I believe if you are planning to attend in person, your off reservation travel has to be approved. So that needs to be submitted as soon as possible. So I do have to ask that question. And then also inform this committee that the ORT must be sent in as soon as possible for it to be approved. So with that, committee members, if there's no other questions or comments or announcements, again, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion and a second to adjourn at this time.
Motion, Eugene So.
Motion made by Honorable Eugene So. Can I get a second?
Second, Delegate James.
Honorable Vince James. So with that, we do have a motion and a second to adjourn. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote, please?
Chairwoman?
Hello, Honorable Otto So, is that you?
Yes, I finally got on, but I'll gladly vote with you guys here. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Otto. So, Sherelle, if you could assist us with the roll call vote to adjourn, please.
Okay, Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Vote is out. Thank you.
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Chair, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, which is the chair not voting, and 1 is absent.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, we have a motion made by Honorable Eugene So, second by Honorable Vince James. The vote is 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, 1 is the chair. We are hereby adjourned at 12:08. Thank you, committee members. You all be safe, and we'll be on next week on Tuesday at 10 o'clock a.m. Be safe, guys. Hello, did you guys hear me? We're adjourned at 12:08. You can hang up now.